to the corner. That allows Toropchenko to knock it loose. Puts it to open ice on the near wing to Mayu. Mayu fires. Score! Logan Mayu to the front of the net. It might have gone off Milan Luchich, who was cutting through. Soderblom looks at the goaltender as if he was touched, but he was actually bumped by his own player, and it's a 2-0 St. Louis Blues lead. 6:47 to go in the second.
There you go. Milan Luchich, the guy that scores the second goal of preseason. Side note, how about Logan Mayu? I mean, I know there were questions when that trade went down in the offseason of trading away a Zach Bolduc. You're getting back a young defenseman, but you're giving up a guy that looks like he's going to be a 25-plus goal scorer. I mean, just through three preseason games we've seen him, not only has he provided offense because he had 4 assists in preseason action, but he has also looked very sound defensively. I have to go back through this, but if I'm not mistaken, I think he was only on the ice for 1 goal against throughout preseason action. And again, I'll go back through and look at that and confirm that one. But welcome everyone into our extended post-game coverage. We call it the fourth period. It's brought to you by First Community Credit Union. We will get to Chris Kerber and Joe Vitale's post-game breakdown coming up in our next segment. If we get audio from Jim Montgomery, we will bring that to you as well to get his thoughts on the post-game reaction following his team's 4-0 victory. But I think we should kick off because there's going to be a lot of people talking, and I think that Milan Luchich highlight is going to be the biggest reason why. Let's jump into the Ted Drew's 3 takeaways. Milan Luchich scores that goal, and to me, I think tonight solidified his spot in the lineup. Or at least I should say on opening night. Now, let me be frank with this. And again, this is just my opinion. I don't know if this is the way that the Blues are going to go. I could be surprised on Monday because on Monday at 4 o'clock our time, 5 o'clock Eastern, is when all of the rosters have to be submitted. Now, could come out earlier than that. Most teams might send them out tomorrow, but no team has to submit their list until Monday at 4 o'clock. So we'll wait until they do, but tonight the competition was pretty frank. Jim Montgomery said it this morning. He said, whoever wants the roster spot, go out there and take it. Tonight, if you look at the stat sheet, Texier, 15 minutes and 15 seconds, played 22 shifts, a lot of power play time, 11 minutes and 45 seconds at even strength, had 2 shots that were both blocked and one that was, he had 1 hit. Milan Luchich scores that goal, 14 minutes and 35 seconds of ice time, did have a shot on goal, and led the team in hits. It was the second game that he has played in preseason that he led the game in hits. The next closest to him was 6 for Leo Loof and 6 for Matt Kessel, 5 for Tyler Tucker. I know there's going to be people that don't like the decision if they go with Milan Luchich. I've already gotten a ton of reaction from Liz over on X saying that he's too slow, he doesn't fit this team, you'd be better off having another player there. I understand he is not the fleetest of foot. He is not a guy that you look at and you say, oh, he can keep up with the NHL. Here's why I believe, and again, my opinion, Luchich makes this roster. And Jordan, if you could pull up some of those audio cuts on there, I'm going to run through these real quick to let people know. But as we're in the first takeaway of our Ted Drew's 3 takeaways, one of the reasons I think Milan Luchich had an upper hand in this was solely because the role he was playing. Texier, we played this audio earlier, Jim Montgomery saying, look, Texier is elite talent. He could play third line, top line, fourth line, whatever we want. But he has to have confidence and he has to adapt. If you look at how this roster is set up, there's no cracking the top 6. It's Buchnevich, it's Thomas, it's Snuggerud, it's Holloway, it's Kyrou, it's Suter or Shen. And then there's no cracking the top 8. It's Shen, it's Neighbors, and then you're talking about the third line wing. Your fourth line, Toropchenko and Walker, and I would assume Oscar Sundqvist, but Sundqvist isn't going to be able to play 82 games. So you're talking about 2 extra players on top of Nick Bjugstad to where do they use him on the fourth line center or third line wing? I think Bjugstad looks better at the third line wing, but he's good defensively, which might put him on the fourth line center role. Now you go to the other players that are available to you. You're talking about one guy that matches the third line role, and that would be Texier. And I think Texier had one good preseason game, and that was Columbus. Did not really show up in the second preseason game that he played in. And then tonight, I just didn't notice him. To me, there's just a lot of empty possessions with Texier, to whereas with Luchich, yes, there are times that you don't notice him on the ice, and yes, he is slow. But that goal, to me, is the prototypical reason why I think Luchich makes this roster. Your role as a fourth-line player, that's what he's going to be, is to keep the puck alive in the offensive zone. Luchich's goal started because Luchich won a board battle against two forwards. He kept the puck alive, got it to Toropchenko, goes to Mailloux, but then it's the knowledge of knowing where to go. And Milan Luchich went right to the front of the crease and timed it out when Mailloux took the shot. I think the one area that the Blues really lacked last season in the early portion was players who knew how to get to the front of the net. And Milan Luchich, to me, knows how to play that role. Plus, he's just a presence when he's on the ice. The Dallas game, Joey made this reference a couple of games ago. Joseph laid a massive hit on a defenseman for Dallas behind the net. Not one player on the ice did anything about it because Luchich was out there. So, again, I understand that there are people that say, I don't know if this Luchich thing is going to work. He looks slow. I don't know how this is going to pan out. He's a presence. Now, let me present more audio to you, because after hearing multiple individuals working within the organization, players and front office and coach, it sounds like they really like Luchich as a person being around the players. First, here's Doug Armstrong when he was talking with the media about the PTO for Milan Luchich.
We certainly did our due diligence. I talked to Milan, obviously. I talked to his family. I talked to his sponsor. I talked to the league. He's 22 months sober now. There's a lot of things that he does behind the scenes that I'll let him describe. But I think one of the things that I appreciate about Mr. Stillman is his willingness to allow me to discuss second chances, but it's not just a second chance based on hockey. You have to have everything else in place, and Milan does, and now it's his responsibility to continue that off the ice. We'll monitor that. Now he's got to see if he can play hockey in the NHL. He hasn't done that in a while. If he can, he's an element player. He's a big, strong player. He commands respect. He makes everybody on the team stand a little taller, maybe hang into the scrum a little longer, knowing that he's coming in behind them. He and I have talked about this, like the NHL, I don't think we got pushed around last year, but there was 3 or 4 teams felt a little more comfortable than they will be if he can still play and be on our roster.
We'll get to that point in just a bit with our Ted Drews 3 takeaways, but that was Doug Armstrong. Here was Jim Montgomery.
Well, he's got to win a job. I mean, I know that sounds simple, but he's got to be good 200 feet. He's got to know what we're doing defensively. And he's got to, there was one rush drill where he took it wide, and, that was NHL speed, and he took it hard to the net. Those are things that we think, as a team, we need to be better at than last year, and maybe he's someone that can help us.
And now, here's Jake Neighbors talking about Milan Luchich, which, by the way, Neighbors was the one that welcomed Luchich into his house when Luchich signed the PTO.
His mantra just speaks for itself. I think playing against him 2 years ago and seeing him at the World Championships in a tournament where there's not a lot of hitting and no fighting, and he still brings that fear. But I think what people don't realize is he can still play. He can still skate. For a guy who's 37, 38 years old, he can still move really well and, has actually really good hockey sense. So I think not only is he going to help us in the aspect of intimidation and being who he is, but like I said, I think he can still play. He brings a lot of leadership, and, I think could be a really good piece to our locker room.
So, again, that's Doug Armstrong talking about the presence that he has and the team being pushed around a little bit last year, and it's nice to have somebody when you're not pushed around. Jim Montgomery is saying he does need to get up to speed and win the job, but he also has NHL moves that he showed up in practices a couple of times. And then Jake Neighbors talking about the presence he has both on and off the ice. 3 different examples of 3 different levels within the organization that were talking highly of Milan Luchich. And all he needed to do, he didn't need to be the best player on the ice. All he needed to do was look like he could stay up to speed in the NHL. And I don't believe, and I know there are some that have said, he looks slow. I don't believe he has looked out of place in the NHL. Does he look fast? No. But does he look out of place? I don't believe so. And that goal that he scored and really the puck possession itself told me everything you needed to know about Luchich. Now, let me play you a couple of pieces of audio on Alex Texier. First, this was Jim Montgomery just talking about him as a player.
In camp, like day one was really good. Day two wasn't as good as day one. I talked to him about consistency. It's always been something I think that needs for everybody's game, but his game, since he's been a Blue, consistency game in, game out, what we can expect. And then I thought the first game he played center in Columbus. I thought he was good. And then the last game that he played on a line with him and Joseph was at center. I think Luchich, was the line. They didn't have a real center. So tonight he's playing, with Suter and Kyrou, so a good opportunity for him tonight.
Good opportunity for him tonight. And then the next one that I wanted to play from Jim Montgomery was the follow-up. We asked him just about the lack of consistency for Texier.
You can say part of it is he hasn't played like a stretch of 10 games in a row. That could be it. But it's up to players to earn the opportunity to play 10 games in a row. And unfortunately, last year, a couple of times when he was on a good run, both times, one right before Christmas, one right before we came back from Four Nations, unfortunately, he fell ill.
That quote right there, it's up to the player to take the job. And go back a couple of games ago, where Jim Montgomery was asked about that third-line wing, and he said, I don't think anybody is taking it right now. I know a lot of people want to see Stenberg in that spot or Dvorsky in that spot. It's asset management. Those guys, as much as I think they're ready for the NHL, you want to make sure you know they're ready for the NHL. They've looked great in preseason. But now you put them back in Springfield. It's asset management because you don't have to worry about waivers. And they go down there and they're the top dog on the lines for their AHL team. So then it comes down to Texier, Joseph, and Luchich. And I think Joseph not playing in this game was a very telling sign as to why he's already on the roster. And he had a great training camp. But that clip of Jim Montgomery where he said, first day of training camp, he was good. And then the next day it wasn't as much. And we had to talk with him about consistency. Jim Montgomery also referenced, for you to make this team, you got to continue to improve every day of training camp. And I just don't know if Texier did that. I could be completely wrong. The Blues could look at this as asset management and say, we don't want to lose Texier, so we'll make Texier our 14th forward. And Luchich, maybe we extend him a little bit longer of a PTO. But after watching this game tonight and just presenting all of this evidence to you, I truly think Luchich won that final roster spot. And what they'll try and do, because I put this on my Ted Drew's 3 Takeaways tweet that I put out, I wonder what they try and do is hope that they can sneak Texier through waivers. Because remember, if a team claims Texier, they have to keep him on their roster, their NHL roster, for 30 days. And most teams, it's already hard to find roster spots to let alone go claim a guy on waivers and bring him in. It can be done, but it's not easy. I wonder if the Blues look at this and say, we know there's elite talent in there. Because there is. We saw it last year with Texier. He needs confidence. What if we could get him to the AHL, put him on a line with Dvorsky and Stenberg, and let him go gain his confidence? And then, as the season progresses, if it doesn't look good with Milan Luchich, well, now you can call up a Texier who's got confidence, and you bring him up and you let him dominate. Just my tinfoil theory with this one, but my first takeaway with our Ted Drew's 3 takeaway, I really believe Luchich is going to be that guy on the final roster spot. Second takeaway, let's get to this one. I love everything that I'm seeing with Robert Thomas and Jimmy Snuggerud. I mean, we saw this last year when they were put together. I didn't realize Jimmy Snuggerud has this elite talent other than shooting the puck. There was a play in the third period, I believe, where he was skating in with a defender on his back. He held on to the defender. He kicked the puck out to his stick and then got the shot off. That's talent. He also made a play to Jake Neighbors in the first period that if Jake Neighbors' stick was on the ice, it's a goal. Also made a play against Ottawa the other night where no look chopped the puck off of the board and went to the front of the net and was put in by Robert Thomas. I told Lou Korak this today at Skate. Snuggerud reminds me a lot of what Tarasenko was talked about early on. And I remember these conversations we had with Ken Hitchcock. And Hitch would always remind us, You're talking a lot. You're talking a lot about his shot. You're not talking enough about his hockey sense and his ability to make plays. And that's what I feel like with Jimmy Snuggerud. You know he's got an elite shot. But, man, if he can create plays the same way Robert Thomas can create plays, whoo, you're talking about a dynamic first line with hopefully a resurgent Pavel Buchnevich this year. And if that's the case, well, now you got two dominant lines that I think can be offensive juggernauts for the Blues this season. But, man, the chemistry with this, I don't know if we've seen chemistry with Robert Thomas like this since Tarasenko and Pavel Buchnevich that first year. What was that, 2021, 2022? Since then, it's just been a cast of different characters that they've been trying to find chemistry with. They might have found it with these two. That's a duo now that you hope the third piece can just go out there and dominate. And then my third takeaway, I love the physical presence that the Blues have. Joey made reference to this, which is still the one that I always go back to in Tampa Bay a few years ago when Robert Bortuzzo just got dogpiled by 5 Tampa Bay Lightning players. Tonight, you saw Luchich, you saw Tucker, Skinner, Loof, Kessel. I mean, that is a lot of not just enforcers, guys that could play at the NHL level, but also have a presence to them. Like, man, the battle and the decision that they're going to have to make between Skinner and Kessel to me is fascinating. Kessel tonight, over 21 minutes, had 6 hits, 4 shot attempts, 2 on net, and 1 giveaway. Hunter Skinner tonight had a point, 5 shot attempts, 3 hits, 1 takeaway, and played close to 18 minutes. No, I'm sorry, close to 17 minutes. And was a +2. Kessel was a neutral. I'm not saying that means anything, but you've got 2 guys on the right side that legitimately provide the same presence that Tyler Tucker provides on that third pair. And for a year ago where I thought the right side of your defense in terms of depth was just non-existent, now you're talking about having Mayu, Parayko, Falk, Jiricek, who's in juniors, Skinner, and Matt Kessel. That's an impressive list to have if you're the St. Louis Blues. So I personally believe it's going to be Matt Kessel that gets the job, but wouldn't surprise me if Hunter Skinner gets it as well. Side note with all of that, both have to clear waivers. So either one you send through will need to clear waivers before they go back to the American Hockey League. So some tough decisions that the Blues are going to have to make. And again, those rosters are expected to be put in. They have to be put in on Monday by 5 o'clock Eastern. Let's take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to hear from Chris Kerber and Joe Vitale, get their thoughts on the game. And then I think we have some audio from Chicago. So we'll hear from Milan Luchich and Jim Montgomery. All that coming your way next here on the fourth period on your home for the Blues 101 ESPN.
Welcome back to the First Community Credit Union Blues postgame show, presented by Scott Lee Heating Company and Urban Chestnut on 101 ESPN.
We got some really good conversation taking place over on our YouTube chat at 101 ESPN STL, and I'm getting a lot of conversation on X, which you always love that, right? When you put one tweet out and then it's just like 18,000 comments come up from it. But I think there's some good conversation taking place between Mike and Sieb US. Mike is saying kind of what I'm saying of like, look, Stenberg and Dvorsky go back to the AHL. You waive Texier, Luchich makes the roster, and then you see what takes place. And Sieb's take on this is fair. It says we shouldn't let Luchich take a roster spot when we have prospects who look like they're ready for that next step. We've got a third-line wing spot open for one of those two, and it makes no sense to let Joseph or Bukestad take that time away from one of them just to have Luchich. And it says we aren't expecting to be contenders this year, so why not get the kids experience? That's my hiccup on this. There's a difference between being contenders for a Stanley Cup and contenders for the playoffs. And I do believe the Blues see this as contenders for the playoffs. This is no longer a retool. This is no longer a, hey, let's get our guys experience. If this was 2 years ago, I would agree with Sieb's message. I would say you need to just let Dvorsky and Stenberg play. But they're young, and you've got rosters to protect those guys. This is the asset management that Doug Armstrong always talks about. It's not about where... How does he phrase this? He said, you can help a prospect just as much as you can hurt, or a team can help a prospect just as much as a team can hurt a prospect. You put him in a third line role, that's fine. But we've seen in the past, slow starts in the first couple of months of the season required you to be perfect down the stretch. They were 500 the last 3 seasons going into Thanksgiving. And then they had to go on a miraculous run 2 of the last 3 seasons to get close to a playoff spot. So as much as I agree, Stenberg and Dvorsky look like they're ready, there's a difference of looking like you're ready to play versus looking like you deserve to be in that spot. And they never did anything that really took that spot and said, I deserve this. So you put them down in the minors, and both will be first call-ups if the Blues have something that happens to them, and that's where their experience comes in. But their experience doesn't come in by playing 12 minutes a night on the third line and then being sat in the third period when it's a 1-goal game. You don't need that experience for them right now. Let them go be the AHL players that they can be, and then put them at the NHL. A couple of others over on our YouTube conversation. Tom asks, do you think Otto has jumped Dvorsky? I don't think this is a tiers list of one's better than the other. Both are very different players. They view Dvorsky as a centerman. They view Otto Stenberg as a winger. Stenberg has shown the playmaking ability to be a winger for you. And I think Dvorsky could show that as well. If you go back to that, what was the first game that they played on home ice in preseason? Was that Dallas? It was a Columbus. I got to look this up now. Jordan, our producer's looking at me. She's helping me as well. There was a first preseason game because it wasn't Dallas and it wasn't Ottawa. Blackhawks. Yep. Thank you. So you were correct on that one. Dvorsky had the goal on that game that was as elite as you can ask for. If Dvorsky was a winger, I think we'd be probably talking about him in the same light as Stenberg. But Dvorsky is a centerman, and there's more to your game than just scoring goals or creating offense. You got to play good two-way game, be good in your own end. You can't jump out there and just do what Stenberg did. So I don't think one's jumped the other. I think if a center gets injured at some point this season, then Dvorsky's going to get called up. I think if a winger gets hurt at some point this season, then Stenberg gets called up. That's kind of where they're at right now. All right, I'm done talking. Let's hear from Chris Kerber and Joe Vitale, their post-game breakdown.
All right, Alex, thank you. Well, Joe, the preseason is over for the St. Louis Blues. Let's take a couple of moments here and circle back on your thoughts here as the preseason games have ended. Blues will have really tomorrow, Sunday, to go ahead and figure out what they're going to do. I believe rosters have to be in on Monday because the regular season does start on Tuesday, opening up with the Blackhawks and the Florida Panthers. 4 o'clock faceoff from Florida to kick off a triple header on ESPN. So first off, what jumps out at you? What stands out at you? One of the storylines that you think something's been answered?
Well, one thing that stands out, we were sitting here a few games ago thinking this is a winless Blues team. Not that wins and losses matter, but we really didn't see Blues hockey, right? We knew a lot of that had to come because a lot of young guys are mixed with old guys, and old guys mixed with young guys, and chemistry. You had wingers playing center, you had centers playing wing. It was kind of just this melting pot of all just craziness and chaos. But I think as camp has gone on, now you're looking at the Ottawa Senators game, last game, Curbs. You're looking at this one. It's great to see versions, spurts, whatever you want to call it, of Blues hockey, identity hockey. A game like tonight, second period, catching a team in transition, using their speed, stretching the ice, getting north, right? And then setting up that offensive zone, using the points, seeing the D jump. I mean, that was the biggest consistency thing I saw in the Ottawa game 2 games ago, was the D joining the rush, playing in the offensive zone, D contributing, chipping in on all those goals. So that's number one. That's a big takeaway for me. You know, is it extremely necessary? Do you have to see that before next Thursday's home opener? No. But it sure helps. It helps because you got competitive kids, you got a competitive coach, and you want to walk into that building on Thursday against the Wild with a really good feeling. You look at the superstars on this team, the Thomases, the Kyrous, the Snuggeroos, all of them have had a lot of success over the last 6 periods, and that to me is a huge plus.
All right, let's talk about some player scenarios here. Starting with Milan Luchich, comes into camp on a PTO. We saw his game get better each and every game. A decision will have to be made here at some point on whether or not the team saw enough.
It's going to be a big one, and I know that we are huge fans of his. We know that certainly a lot of people are pulling for him, you know, kind of this second chance, the second wind at it. Now, has he done enough? Well, only one person can really answer that, and that's not me. What I have seen, I will tell you, he has gotten better every single game.
Yep.
He started out camp. The Columbus game was not his best. That first period was tough, and it should be. You missed 22 months. You've been off hockey for almost 2 years. It's going to take a little while to get into it, right? I don't care how much time you skate in the summer. There's nothing like live action. But guess what? The next game he came back, he got a little bit better. He got better each and every game, and tonight was by far his best game. We started to see this mold of what his game could look like. Below the dots, the goal he scored in tonight's game. What did he do? Just get to the net. Keeping things very simple. You know, can he make this team? I think he can. And one of the reasons why I say that is because one thing stands out, and you have to have this if you want to give yourself a chance, and that is, can you keep up with the pace of play? I've loved his practices. He's got great pace in practice. I think he's still second-guessing. He's still doing a lot of thinking, and rightfully so. His timing's off. You missed a lot of time. The big question mark is, can we coach him? Can you get him to the standard and to the level you need mentally? Because physically, Curbs, I saw the physicality, and the skating is definitely there. Can they get some of those intangible things, the mental side of things, hammered into him? Jim Montgomery knows the answer to that question, and if it's a yes, to me, he's a great solution here on this team.
One of the other question marks throughout camp is how does the centerman scenario shape up with Pius Suter? What have you seen from him through these games now to determine how comfortable you are, whether it's second or third line?
You know, I think to me, tonight's game, he was a player that he stood out, did some really good things. Also a veteran player looking for the regular season to come around. I mean, you sense it in a lot of these.
Right.
So I don't want to put too much of a highlight on this game. My favorite game of Pius Suter was when he played with Dylan Holloway and Jordan Kyrou. That, to me, is going to be the second line. I think we've established that. The game a few games ago, I think it was the Dallas game, they were the best line on the ice. Dylan Holloway had a couple goals. Pius Suter had the chemistry with Kyrou. He had the chemistry with Holloway. We asked Dylan Holloway what he liked about him, and he said his intelligence. He's just a very smart hockey player. He makes players around him better. In that particular game, it was a ton of gives, a ton of goes. He has great face-off instincts. He's really good down low. And overall, Curbs, he makes players around him better. I think he has done more than enough to earn himself that second-line role. And I think for what does that mean for Braden Shen? I think Braden probably to start the season is going to be on that third line. You know, he's going to probably have Jake Neighbors on his left. And the big question mark is who's going to be on his right. We've seen Nick Bukestad. I thought he looked pretty comfortable there, although I liked him at center tonight. I will admit that. You know, is it a Matthew Joseph, who's had a great camp as well? Is it a Toropchenko? Do they kind of mix and match and move some guys around? But I do think from a center position standpoint, clearly Thomas is number one. I think Pius Suter has played himself and had a great camp in number two, and that leaves Braden Shen on more of a physical third line with Jake Neighbors on his left and a question mark on his right.
The one thing they do with Suter and Shen, they definitely have flexibility in terms of how they use those guys. Now, one of the other camp lines, okay, who fills in on the right side. Jim Montgomery said how that bottom six shapes out, and then he eventually didn't say bottom six. He said bottom four. And they really do have some options and some interchangeable parts there, but somewhere in that grouping, someone's not making this club.
It is true. It's a numbers game. You figure you keep 7D. You got your 2 goalies. Right now we have one extra forward, and that's assuming all the young guys get sent down, which I think at this point it's fair to think that will happen.
Because you still have all the movable options with them.
You do.
From a waiver standpoint.
Exactly. You don't need to worry about waivers on the young guys. Send them down. Let them continue to grow. I'm talking about the Kaskamakis. I'm talking about the Stenbergs and, of course, the Dalibor Dvorskys. Let them continue to mature down there. But from a veteran standpoint, you have one too many, right? Between Luchich, between Alexander Texier, Matthew Joseph, Toropchenko, you got Sundqvist, you got Walker, and then, of course, you got Nick Bukestad. All those guys, to me, are juggling and rushing for those 4 spots. The bottom line and then that right wing on the third line. Right now you have one too many. Is it a Luchich who they just kind of cut ties with, and then you have everyone come back from last year? Is it a player that's under contract? Maybe a Texier that all of a sudden you free up some cap space, maybe you send him on waivers, maybe he gets picked up. Is it a trade involved there? I'm not sure what's going to happen, but something needs to happen because right now at this point with the group I just mentioned, you have one too many and decisions are going to need to be made.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. The one thing in camp that was for sure fantastic, your goaltending.
Oh, man, it was just better than ever. Joel Hofer was steady at the beginning. Not a lot of action in the second because the Blues just took over the game in the second period, but steady at the beginning. I loved his bounce back in that Dallas game, even though 2 of the first 3 get behind him. He had just great pushback the rest of that game. Loved the way he responded. And I'm telling you, Jordan Binnington, he looks as good as he is like a fine wine. He's just getting better and better. Ever since that 4 Nations tournament last year, he was always a very confident kid. He was steady, right? But something has taken on a whole nother level I didn't think existed because he has been the go-to guy. He's the backbone. He's the personality. He's one of those driving buses of this group. You're great to see him in the Ottawa game. That was a game the Blues won, I believe, 7-1. 36 saves. He wasn't a slouch in that game.
Nope.
He got plenty of action. Love the way he's playing the puck. Love the way he's communicating. He's been smiling a lot. He's having fun. Things are going very, very well for him. So right now, like you mentioned, Curbs, there's some question marks at the forward position. I think the D are pretty much set, and the goaltenders, without question, are set as well.
All right, what do you have for our final preseason game? Bud Light, 3 stars, and work boots.
Number 3 here tonight, Milan Luchich, goal on the night, and certainly was one of the leaders in the hit parade. Number 2, I'm going to go with Otto Stenberg. He had a couple points in this game. Loved his PP goal there as well. And then number 1, Robert Thomas, continues to put up points and almost look effortless and shining in all these preseason games. I can't wait to see it continue next Thursday. Work boots, I'm going to go with Matthew Kessel, a young man who I thought just had a terrific camp from start to go. I think that he was killing plays. I think he stood out. I thought he was physical. I thought he was a leader out there. This was probably his very best game. I love the way he's throwing the body around. And to me, he is such a great piece that this Blues team throughout the stretch of the season with the condensed schedule, like we mentioned, they are going to be leaning heavily on 51 throughout stretches. I can promise you that.
As young as they are, and inexperienced as they are, but what we saw in camp from, let's call it the draft classes, the 3 years of drafting during the whatever it's called, Stenbergs, Dvorskys, Kaskamakis, Snuggarudes, and these guys, wow. Lindstein. Blues have some hockey players in this organization right now.
It's going to be a fun decade.
I talked to 2 scouts today, and they go, wow, you guys, They basically are saying there is a foundation you're seeing in St. Louis that is setting you guys up for some long-time competitiveness.
It's twofold. It's drafting well and developing well. You look at decisions like, are they going to send down a Dalibor Dvorsky? Probably. Now, a Dalibor Dvorsky in a different organization, let's look at the Chicago Blackhawks. He probably he'd have a better chance of making this team.
Yeah.
Does that stunt the growth? Probably. I love the way the Blues have approached the growth and allowing these kids the patience to mature. Dalibor came in last year. He felt all this pressure. Assistant GM Tim Taylor told us, so all this pressure to shine and be noticeable and be the next guy, be the it factor. And it just was too much on him. He went back down the minors. He settled down. He learned what it was like to be a pro. And I would imagine he's going to be going back down there again, continuing to season himself about what it is to take it to the next level. Right? So the good news is the Blues have that time. They have the players in place where they can be competitive and they can give those kids the patience it takes in order to stay down there, really develop and play in all situations. So to me, that's the luxury. It's a perfect balance.
Yep.
You got the team that can win, but also you got the luxury of having young kids down there that don't need to feel so much pressure, that they can go down there, do their thing, and when they start finding their stride and the team up here needs them, you call them up, they're going to have success.
One of the gutsiest decisions you're going to see a manager in sports make. Doug Armstrong made it. He looked at a window. He looked at an opportunity. He knew he could have kept some players that still had some good hockey left in them and try and kind of keep a fading championship window open, and said, if we turn the corner now, we can do this with a little bit of short-term pain. And he might have just done it.
Yeah, I think
he might have done it.
Yeah, I think he has.
We'll have to see how it plays out. And, man, we can't wait for Thursday night. All right, Alex, the Blues end the preseason. A 4-0 win over the Blackhawks. Can't wait to see everybody in downtown St. Louis. Dobbs Tire and Auto Center face-off week kicks off. And the Blues and Minnesota Wild drop the puck on Thursday night at Enterprise Center. Let's get it back to you.
All right, guys, thank you so much. It's going to be a party in downtown St. Louis, and I can't wait for it either, especially when you get the Minnesota Wild rolling into town. That's the post-game breakdown. Before we close it down, let's hear from the head coach and get his thoughts after a 4-0 win.
The goal line, depending on the way the team kills, or being on the half wall, being on his forehand flank, because they...
We'll get to Jim Montgomery in just a bit. Never mind. We got it. Here we go.
What's left for some of the guys you're still wanting to get looks at here? What are you hoping to see from them tonight?
I mean, see, guys.
All right, so this isn't on us. The Blues sent the pregame availability this morning in the postgame availability tonight. I think that's what it was. So the video was probably the incorrect one. So that's okay. This happens. It's preseason for all of us. Let's hear from Luchich. Do we have Milan Luchich, Jordan?
I can hear him, but let's try. Let's try.
Round two.
So first,
Boom.
obviously, we haven't been here too long yet, but overall, how's your experience been as a Blue and with this organization?
Yeah, it's been great. It's everyone's been really welcoming from the players to the coaches to the management. Everyone's really been great, and it's been a fun. I got here on Labor Day weekend, so it's been fun since then. So my goal was to get better every day, and I felt like I did that. Kind of just quickly reviewing all the games I played, 4 out of the 6, and felt like my game got better as camp went along. So everything's gone well so far.
Yeah. And then a couple from NHL.com. Do you think you've picked up the flow and pace as camp has progressed, especially after the injury setback, to make a case for earning a contract?
I think so. I think that's a better question for management. But as far as for me, I mean, obviously it's a tough bump in the road getting a groin injury there. I know a lot of people are judgmental about my skating, but in order for me to be effective, I definitely need my legs and my speed to play the way that I do. So to be able to battle through the last 3 games with a groin injury, like I said, I felt like I got better. From Tuesday to Thursday to Saturday. So happy with what I was able to do this week.
And then your goal tonight, keeping the puck alive and then getting to the net, is that the style and the manner that you want to do things?
Yeah, just establishing in front of the net, winning battles. I felt like I could have done a better job winning battles coming into this game. I thought our line as a whole, and not just our line, our whole team, is probably our best effort as far as winning battles, keeping pucks alive, playing in the O-zone. So not only myself, a lot of guys got rewarded for that tonight.
I really like that answer that he had there in the middle where he said, I know people are critical of my skating, but for me to be effective the way that I have been in my career, I have to do things a certain way. And he did have the tweaked groin that he was kind of making his way back through. So all this needs to be said. We don't know what's going to happen. The only people that do is Doug Armstrong in his front office and Jim Montgomery and the coaching staff. But we'll have to wait and see. 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock our time on Monday or when the rosters are due. You might see them before that, though, depending on how confident the team is in their guys. That is going to close that down for us tonight. A great job once again by our producer, Jordan Deacon. Hope everyone has a great rest of their weekend. Thank you all for joining in on the chat over on our YouTube channel at 101 ESPN STL, and, of course, over at X on social media at Ferrario 101 ESPN. Blues win 4-0. Preseason over. Regular season opens up on Thursday. And you'll hear the entire season right here on your home for the St. Louis Blues, 101 ESPN.
Thanks for listening to the First Community Credit Union Blues postgame show, presented by Scott Lee.